Hi there, I'm Gavin from Exclusive Expeditions and welcome to the first of our Q&A sessions. Today we're going to be discussing the Silver Explorer. Well, classic cruising is all about relaxation and luxury with a set itinerary and program. Expedition cruising is more about adventure and exploration in the more off-the-beaten-path destinations. Although with Silversea Expeditions, of course, you do get that element of luxury on board as well. Now, on an expedition ship, the day-to-day scheduling and port stops are more fluid than on a classic cruise. This allows a lot more flexibility for the captain to take you off your current path, to maybe take advantage of wildlife sightings. It might be to do with the sea conditions, or just to take advantage of any breathtaking scenery in the area. On an expedition cruise, you become much more in touch with your destinations than you do on a classic cruise. This, of course, aided by an expert expedition team of naturalists, scientists and lecturers from the very top of their respective fields. Now, whereby on a classic cruise, experiences are kind of split evenly between your time on board and your time offshore, with, of course, a shore excursion program which would be in place. On an expedition cruise, the whole cruise really feels like one long shore excursion, rather than just a couple of hours here and there on a classic cruise. I have to say that expedition cruising is not for everyone, but for those of you with a real thirst for adventure, an expedition cruise, and particularly with Silversea Expeditions, is something that really should be on your bucket list. A typical day on board Silver Explorer, you'd have an early morning wake-up call, normally around 7 o'clock. Then get ready, go down for breakfast, which would be a buffet breakfast, open seating. And then you'd then get ready to go on your first expedition of the day. Now, depending on the amount of passengers on board, if it's over 100 like it often is on Silver Explorer when running at full capacity, you may be split into two groups. Some of you may go out to do a landing ashore, for example in Antarctica, and the others may go out and explore on the ship's Zodiac boats. Now, after the morning's expedition, you then come back on, have your lunch, again be a buffet service for lunch. You then get ready for the afternoon. Now, if you've been split up in the morning, you then flip around, reverse, and do the opposite thing in the afternoon. Or if everyone has done what they want to do in the morning, the ship may then sail to a different destination and you go out again to explore a different area. Now, once the afternoon expedition's over for the day, is then a case of coming back on and get warmed up, ready for pre-dinner drinks, and then of course a fantastic dinner on board. Silversea Expeditions, the Explorer, just like the classic fleet, the food on board and the service is second to none, and it's one of the real highlights on board during the cruise. Now, after dinner, you would then meet in the lounge for a debrief on the day. Here you would have all the various naturalists and experts from their field, expedition leaders, who would all do their talks and observations of what they've seen in the day, and then there'll be a Q&A. You can ask questions about things you've seen, share experiences, and really make the most of everything that you've seen in that day. After this debrief, it's then a case of going, enjoying your evening, maybe going for a drink. There is a lounge which will have entertainment, normally in the form of a pianist. So quite low-key entertainment rather than the classic fleet. There's no West End shows on board expedition ships. It's that more laid-back feel. It's all about the destinations. And then most people then go to bed very early because the next day you'll be up at 7 o'clock to do it all again. Silver Explorer is a great choice for solo travellers. Now, Silversea, as a brand across both their classic fleet and their expedition fleet, they have single supplement deals as low as 25%, which are some of the best in the entire industry. Now, because these single supplement deals are so good, you will find that there will be many other solo travellers on board with you, like-minded explorers and travellers, adventurers. Now, because Silver Explorer as well is a smaller ship, a maximum capacity of not much more than 100 guests, you will find that you will get to know almost everyone on board, and particularly the other solo travellers who are on there with you. Now, if the Silver Explorer itineraries aren't exactly what you're looking for, across the expedition fleet, Silversea Expeditions really does have the world covered, with itineraries in Africa, the Indian Ocean, South Pacific, to name but a few. There really is a fantastic deal out there for the solo traveller with Silversea Expeditions, and I really recommend that you try the Silver Explorer. Well, of course, what you need to pack really depends on the destination of your expedition cruise, but we focus this on Antarctica and the polar regions. Now, there are no formal nights on board Silver Explorer, so the evenings are all smart casual. Now, in the daytime, well, that's where everything really happens. That's where you have the majority of your experiences on an expedition cruise. Now, one must is binoculars. If you invest in a good pair of binoculars on the cruise, you won't regret it. Not all wildlife sightings on an expedition cruise are very close to the ship, so having these binoculars will allow you to see so much more. It's also worth investing in a very good camera if you don't already have one. Some of the shots you'll be able to take when you're away are some of the best you will ever have taken in your life. Also, alongside the camera, maybe bring extra memory cards, or certainly a high gigabyte memory card. Extra battery packs as well will come in very useful. You'll also want to take a waterproof bag. When you go out in the Zodiacs, a waterproof bag really will keep your camera and such like all your belongings dry and safe. Warm clothing is a given. It's of course a must in the polar regions. You'll want warm waterproof gloves. Waterproof trousers again are a must for when you go out on the Zodiacs. Heavy wool socks important as well, and you will want good gripping footwear. So one thing people may not think to take when they go on an expedition cruise to the polar regions is sunglasses, but they are absolutely essential because the sun reflects off the ice and off of the snow and becomes very bright, can be blinding, so please remember to take your sunglasses with you. Moisturizer, lip balm, again very important things, and don't forget a really nice woolly hat. In 2018, the Silver Explorer starts the year in Antarctica, where it will be sailing throughout January and February. On the 25th of February, it does a fascinating 14-night cruise from Ushuaia to Valparaiso, taking in the Chilean fjords. Then from March till May, most of the cruises take in the northeastern corner of South America and Central America, visiting countries such as Peru, Costa Rica, Mexico, Nicaragua and El Salvador. Now on these types of expeditions, you really get to see some fascinating fauna, wildlife and indigenous people to these areas as well. From June to September, the Silver Explorer sails up the western coast of the US to Alaska, where it will be sailing through Alaska and also the Russian Far East. Now, I've been lucky enough to do two summer seasons working on ships in Alaska, and I have to say it really is some of the most spectacular scenery you will see anywhere in the world, and the wildlife is amazing also. Many of the other expedition experts that I've spoken to in the field, their favourite place in the whole world is the Russian Far East, saying that some of the wildlife there is really different and really fantastic and different to what you see anywhere else. Now from September to November, the Silver Explorer then ventures south into the South Pacific, taking in Hawaii and French Polynesia along the way. Now it is worth noting that some of the South Pacific itineraries for 2018 include Easter Island. Now these are already on a wait list. In fact, one of the Silver Explorer's sailings to Easter Island in 2019 is on a wait list already too. You really need to book up sometimes 2 years in advance for certain itineraries. Now, many of these cruises include flights, but not all of them. Don't worry about that. The most important thing is that you get your suite booked up early, and we can always add these flights in for you at a later date. And from November to December, the Silver Explorer is then back in Antarctica again for the winter to do some more fantastic scenic cruising, spotting that wildlife and going for those fantastic Antarctic landings. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of our Q&A session. We do hope to see you again next time. If you've got any questions, please don't forget to comment below. Thank you very much.